I'm going to do something that I don't do very often. I'm going to go off script. I don't think there is a script, but no. One of the realities of the ministry, the administrative part of it, if you will, is you have to have the service all set and ready to go, so that the office administrator can put it into place, can get it proofread, and get it printed off and be ready to go. So you do that relatively early in the week. Well, the assumption is that the word that the Spirit led you to as you were preparing that is the same Spirit that will continue to be with you during the week. And a good portion of the time that's the way it is. But this week, I'm afraid, just wasn't one of those. So the beautiful hymn that the choir did, which was absolutely beautiful and would fit in everywhere, was gorgeous. And the reading that Carew did, which is really, really a good reading and really, really important, kind of forget them right now. And I want you to look in your bulletins, because the scripture reading is in the bulletin. Turn to the Lord's Prayer. And there's one part in there where it says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." You got that? I know y'all know that because I tried to change it and was almost crucified. That's why we put the cross way in the back. I wanted it far away from people so that when they were thinking about it, maybe I could keep it covered up and they wouldn't see it. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. This is referring obviously to God. And in part in preparing for what I had planned to be the message today, and in hearing events as they transpire around the world, here in St. J, in the Northeast Kingdom, in Vermont, the U.S., all world round, looking at the internet, reading some of the stories, just on a myriad subjects, I came to realize that we as the church, one of the problems that we really, really have is that we're trying to fit into the world. We have allowed the prevailing culture, in our case, Western culture, and let's face it, Western culture is primarily dictated by the United States of America. We've allowed the prevailing culture to dictate who we are and how we respond to things, how we react, and what we react to. And in one of those ways in particular is our Sunday school curriculum. And I'm not just picking on the one that we have, and I'm not picking on anybody, but one of the things I did after I had this epiphany was go to about 12 different sites and look at Sunday school curriculum. And go to the UCC site and look at the children's pages that are there. And go to the United Methodist Church and the Episcopal Church and the Catholic Church. And I looked at the children's messages, if you will, what we're trying to teach them. And one of the things that really kind of came over me was we have taken a lesson from the secular school world. And I think that we've been doing that for a long period of time, so that not only is it impacting our children today, but it has impacted us as adults, even to the most eldest of us, because this has been going on for a long time. And the message that we have been trying to, the message we have been getting across, we haven't tried to, the message we have gotten across is, it's a tough world out there. And we need to prepare you to deal with all the bad things that are out there in the world. That's what it's all about. The new thing now that, well, they have these competitions where there's no winners and losers. But, well, in the real life, that's not the way it is. There are winners and there are losers. And we must hold up those that are superior at plug in the blank, spelling, football, basketball, mathematics, whatever kind of competition is there. And we must not reward mediocrity. Because the thing that will most bring about the end of Western culture in the United States of America is mediocrity. We need to have this polarization of the really, 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 really good and those that suck at any given thing. And I'm afraid that we have been buying into it. And when I look at the curricula that is out there, the curriculum that's out there, I see it being taught more and more. We are losing the sense of awe and wonder that comes with being a little child. Caleb walked down here, and the microphone caught his eye. So he knew where Mom was going, but did he go with Mom? No, if you were watching, he came over to the microphone and wanted to play with the microphone because he was curious about it. And children do that periodically, way too often, all the time, when it's a good thing. And we kind of want to chase that curiosity away from them. Now, are there times and places in which to engage in it? Of course there are. And I'm not talking about an anarchy where we let kids do whatever they want. That's called my house when we were growing up. Yeah, there is socialization that must be learned, and this is when we do this, and this is when we don't do this. But to take it out of the way, or out of their world completely, does a disservice to them, and I think does a disservice not only to us, but to the church and to God. Children are a true blessing to any family, and especially to a church family. As I was going through the search process, Kathy and I, we used to laugh. There were certain things on a profile that the church filled out concerning the pastor that you were looking for. There were, search committee, probably like 80 things to check off, and you checked off only 12. Only 12. Every profile I looked at, which was in the 70s or 80s easily, that we looked at, all had checked off being a good speaker, preacher, and being a person of faith. Yeah, isn't that a given? Don't you want a pastor that's... so it's like, why is that even there? Because everybody wants it. The other thing that was there in the hopes and dreams for the new pastor coming in for the new church, every one of them had the same thing within the first 2 wishes and dreams: bringing children into the church. We have this notion, this sense that the church is only considered to be faithful and successful, if you will, if there are children running around, and that's an important thing for us. It's something that we want to work for, not only us, but every congregation. And yet we get the children in here, and right off the bat, we get involved with them just like the secular world, and try to, you can't ask that question. Don't ask that. You get to a certain point in Sunday school, and there are questions that are frowned upon. Now, I'm not saying our Sunday school, and I'm not saying every Sunday school, but for the most part, that's the way that it is. And children are expected to learn the party line, if you will, the dogma, the creed, whatever you want to call it. They're supposed to learn it so that they know what it is and what you can question and what you cannot question. I don't necessarily feel that way. As I've tried to, in every opportunity that I've had for a Christian education experience, especially for adults, is to say there is no such thing as a bad question or a question that's out of bounds. Everything is open to questioning, to interpretation, to understanding. Everything is. So I have my first confirmation class at Zion. It's my second year there. Now for those that don't remember, and just to Zion, when I came to that church, was right out of seminary. So it was my first church too. You know, even though I was a little over 40, it was my first church. And even though Kathy and I had grown up in the church being active, there's something different when you're even the moderator or the chairperson of the board and the pastor. So here I've got my first confirmation class, and I have the kids write out for the very first thing, say, okay, I want to figure out where you're at. Right, and just to know. It said, write for me 3 things that you believe with all your heart. 3 things that you could not talk about. Could not talk about. Sorry about that. That you had to have as a part of who you were. And two of the kids wrote down, I believe in reincarnation. Okay. There were no Buddhist temples anywhere in our little part of the world in St. Louis. I don't know necessarily where they got that, but this was really, really important to them. So I go to the first meeting of the Christian Education Committee to talk about how confirmation is going after my first week, and I said, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I'm reading off the responses that I got from the kids, not the names, but just the responses. I said, and 2 of the kids said they believe in reincarnation. And the air was sucked out of the room when they all went, oh. It's like I couldn't breathe for a minute. It was all gone. Well, what are you going to do about that? So, well, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about the pluses and the minuses, where the idea comes from, why it might be and why it might not be valid. But just if this is where they're at, engage them where they are. They weren't happy. Now, as a pastor, my ultimate responsibility is to make every committee in the church happy. So of course I did exactly what they said, because all I want to do is please the committees and the councils of the church. And you can tell the people that are laughing, they're the ones on the committees and the councils of the church that know I don't care. And we talked about it. We talked about things like that all through the year. So at the end of the year, when the kids had to come up with their own statement of faith, 2 of them included the idea of reincarnation. Now, the way we did it then, and the way many churches do, is the new confirmands meet with the council. And there's a dinner. And the children stand up before the council, and they are to recite their statement of faith and answer questions that are given by the council or by the pastor. And that's the way confirmation just started. And I don't know how many of you went through it, but that was a very common exercise. So they get up and they read their statement of faith, and they get to the part about reincarnation. And again, it was a much, much bigger room, but we had a lot more people. The candles went out because the oxygen was gone from the... And afterwards, I was taken to task for allowing discussion on this to continue, why I didn't just squash it right off the bat. And my response was, because this is what they believe. And there is, and then I pulled out of Scripture the points to validate a notion of Christian reincarnation, which does exist, that they didn't know anything about. That thereby allowed a teaching opportunity for for the adults, made possible by the questions and the quandaries of the youth. Now, I think what brought all this to mind for me was the preparation for the class on Islam, and going back and revisiting my notes and coming up with some changes and some editing, which you always do when you go back to something. And I realized that in no great part I have lost that in myself, and I think I have not echoed it enough to you, the congregation. It's not only okay, but it's essential to being Christians that we ask questions, that we read things, that we hear things anew, that it causes us to take pause and to say those words that we all hate to say, I didn't know that. I don't know. Because we all want to know everything and feel very comfortable in that knowledge. And I think that if we are to be faithful disciples, then we need to continually ask, to continually question. Because the same question you ask when you're 13, you ask it when you're 35, and your situation in life is completely different and your experiences are different. So quite possibly your answers would be different. As you grow, hopefully our understanding grows and our wisdom and our knowledge. We never get it all, but that we continue to develop in our sense of who we are and our understanding of whose we are and what that means for our lives. There is no one phrase, there is no one creed, there is no one statement of faith that speaks completely for everyone. My guess is it would be pretty hard to find any one statement of faith or creed that completely speaks for an individual. There's always going to be at least something in there that the person's going to say, I'm not too sure about that. Or, I don't quite understand what they mean by that. So I'm not saying that the goal is to develop one all-embracing it. Because I don't think it exists. What exists are many paths, many ways to understand, many paths to follow, many ways of understanding to grow in. And it's incumbent upon us as the church to do that. To allow our children, our youth, our people, to ask whatever question comes to mind. To give voice to whatever doubt may be in their heart. Whatever concern might be wearing on their soul. We live in a world that they're continually trying to make into a world of black and white, right or wrong, 1-0, good, bad, Christian, everyone else. And that's not the world that God created. God created us in God's image. God allowed us, imparted upon us this notion, this idea of free will. And with free will comes free mind. And with free mind comes questions, doubts, concerns. We start out as young people, and our parents are eager to instill that. Oh, Marcialito's so bright. Did you see? He wanted to take apart his little train and put it all back together. This was the greatest thing in the world. Until he's about 11, and Marcialito tries to take apart the VCR. Now he goes from genius to pain in the neck. Oh, little Ella, can you believe that? She's walking around asking, what's that, Grandma? What's that, Grandma? What's that, Grandma? And that lasts for about a year and a half, and Grandma says, shut up. Go ask Grandpa. It's a bug. I don't know what kind of bug. It's a bug. The children ask the question, who is God and what is God and where is God? And we think it's cute, and we write little books, and we put them together, and we sell them so that we can make money, and we read them to show, wasn't that adorable what little Susie said about God and dinosaurs? Until they get to a certain age, and then that's a silly question. My hope, my prayer, my fervent prayer for myself, for you, is that we can remember and maintain the child that is within us, the child of God that we were and that we always are. I don't think it's any coincidence that we're constantly referring to others and to ourselves as children of God. Well, we are. So I guess what I'm asking is that we act like it. That we appreciate the awe and the wonder. That we lose the fear to question and to ask and to doubt. That we truly live into that statement which is so essential. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. May we not waste so much energy, physical, financial, resources, emotional, spiritual, living into the world as it is. But let us live into the world as it should be, where being a child is appreciated, is respected, is nurtured. Amen. So by some movement of the